Welcome to the First Baptist Church of Gas City, where you have made a trade-off. You could have been doing something else, but you chose to be with us. Is that so awesome? Well, we'll find out after the end of the service. So for you who are watching on YouTube or Facebook, watch the whole thing. Don't just click on it and say, oh, okay, that's what it's going to be. No, you never know what's going to happen. You got to stay with it. All right. It's just like I've told people who have come to be part of congregations where I've served. I said, this is like cookies or potato chips. You know, when you put the potato chip or the cookie in your mouth, you just don't know if you really enjoy it or not. So you got to get another one. You got to give it a chance. You never know. You just might enjoy it. The whole bag. Now, when I was in the military as a young feller, I was one of the drivers for my chaplain. The other guy, he drove also. We took turns. Well, we were supposed to. One day, it was my turn to drive the Jeep, to take the chaplain somewhere. And my buddy, when we go out to the Jeep, all three of us were going to go. He gets in on the driver's side. And I'm like, no. I take care of this Jeep. I go to the motor pool. I take care of it. So I'm going to drive when it's my turn to drive. Because I learned how to drive a stick on that Jeep. I was so proud of myself. That this was my baby. It was brand new too. Well, the chaplain saw that we weren't getting along. So he took us back into the chapel. We had a little conversation. And the chaplain said, Steve, you're going to drive. Okay, the boss spoke. My buddy heard it too. We both heard this. I'm going to be the driver. Well, we go out to the Jeep. And he gets in the driver's seat again. That's about all I could handle. That's about all that I could handle. And I said, I'm done. And I told my chaplain, I got other things I could be doing. I'm going to be moving my room to another room. So I'll just do that instead of messing with this. And then the chaplain said, you'll regret this. I said, no, I'm not. I was a little loopy when I was young. You think I'm loopy now? I was really loopy then. I said what I thought, regardless of the rank. I was nuts. So, later on in the year, guess who got promoted before me? Yep. It's okay though. Because I moved to a different and more spacious room. I was the only one in my room. That was my trade-off. Immediate gratification of driving the Jeep or getting some work done. And also there was a trade-off of getting promoted before the other guy or not. It all worked out. Now, in our lives, we have trade-offs every single day. We make choices every single day. Am I going to have Cheerios or am I going to have raw oatmeal? What are the trade-offs? Now, I had a big box of Honey Nut Cheerios. And my thinking is, now it's an oat cereal, so it's good for the heart. But when you look at the box, at the ingredients, high fructose corn syrup, second ingredient. So this time when we went to the store, I got plain oatmeal. I mean, not plain oatmeal, plain Cheerios. I'll check the box later. But at least it doesn't have the honey sweetness in it. Trade-off. Which is better? Which is quicker? I usually go for the Cheerios because it's quicker. But it's not necessarily better. There are fruit bars, there are other cereal bars that would be quicker, but are they better? Trade-offs. Do I go to Dollar General or do I go to Neiman Marcus? Is that it?
High-end store?
Yeah, high-end store. Thank you. So you just fill in the blanks to interpret what I'm saying as we go along. You're right. I didn't have my Cheerios, but I did brush my teeth. All right. Now this is a great example too. A trade-off. Keep the volume up or turn it off. It happens. Thank you. That was on cue. That worked out great. Now there's a trade-off. There's also a trade-off. Do I learn how to use my phone when I get it or when things happen? If I learn before the incident happens, I don't have everyone laughing at my situation. Right? Okay. So, I just love it when you all participate in the sermon. It really helps. Now, when we talk about our relationship with Christ, we talk about a trade-off. Because we're living our life, minding our own business, and then we come up to the question, what are we going to do with the rest of our life? In Mark chapter 8, verse 31 to 38, we read, "He then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law, and that he must be killed, and after 3 days rise again." He spoke, he spoke plainly about this. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind, pardon me, you do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of men." Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels." Now, when we think about trade-offs, oftentimes we see this when we're talking about economics. That, like Jack and the Beanstalk. When Jack was told, go sell the cow, make some money for the family. But some guy says, hey, I got these magic beans, man. Give me the cow, I'll give you the beans. What are these beans going to do for me? When the mother tosses the beans out the window in disgust, what happens in the next day? A giant beanstalk grows up. And then Jack climbs that. And he meets a giant. He meets a goose. He meets a harp. He could have chose the harp. It was made of gold. But what about the goose? What did the goose produce?
Golden egg.
Golden eggs. Trade-off. Instant gratification of the golden harp, or continual, long-term gratification of the golden eggs. Now, trade-off. What does Jack do? Takes, and then what does the giant do? Boo! 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 Give me back my goose! Trade-offs. What kind of stress do you think Jack was experiencing at that moment? Quite a bit. What kind of stress do you think the goose has? Quite a bit. Now, think about how we are. The trade-offs we have made throughout our lives. And as we are moving along in our lives. Jesus, it says, tells, oh, my phone? It can't be. It is my phone.
You talk about your phone.
I know. Okay. Whatever a preacher says hits him back. And do you realize every Sunday I preach something and then something happens during the week that smacks me in the face and said, you preached it, buddy. And it's like, I'm going to stop preaching. Then I'll have nothing to think about all week long. But I still am. Okay, so Peter takes Jesus aside. Now, Peter has a trade-off. Keep his mouth shut and let Jesus be Jesus, and let him run his course the way he wants to, the way he thinks he's supposed to, or get in his face. Say, no! None of this is going to happen to you because you're the man. It's not going to happen like that. How would you like to be Peter? You get in front of Jesus and say, this isn't happening. You're not going to Jerusalem because you know they're going to kill you. And then what's going to happen to us? And then have him turn to you and say, get behind me, Satan. What? Am I that bad? Do I have horns? Do I have a pitchfork? It has nothing to do with those things. You are thinking not like me. You're thinking like people. And what are people naturally, whenever they get something? You got $5? No? Oh. Jack, you got $5? Oh my goodness, does anybody have $5? Oh, you gave it all in the offering. Oh, shucks. But the idea that once we have something, we don't want anyone taking it away. Once we have it, we don't want anyone taking it away. It's natural. We want to protect it. I like the idea. The less I have, the less I am concerned. The more I have, the more locks I want to put on the door. Because I don't want anyone coming in and getting stuff. Because I work too hard for it. Peter has this relationship with Jesus. He doesn't want to lose it. Have you ever heard of the monkey who reaches into a box, grabs the banana, but he wants the apple? You got to let go of the banana if you want the apple. You can't have them both. We're like that. We have something we don't want to give up. Now, my wife and I are having this situation where I want this elliptical bike. Okay? I have a trike, a recumbent trike. Well, the challenge is get rid of the one in order to get the other. But I want both. Because my thinking is, she can ride the recumbent easily. She won't fall down, all this stuff, and then we can ride together. And then we can switch. Get a lower workout on the recumbent and get an upper workout and a lower workout with the elliptical. So we're challenged with, do we do either or both and? Life is like that in all areas of our lives. Use a pencil, use a pen. Use a computer, use an iPad. Use your iWatch. Is that what it's called? The iWatch, or use your cell phone. Use an Android or use an iOS. We got trade-offs. Now, Jesus is telling Peter, you're not thinking, you don't have the mind of the things of God. Now, if we have accepted Christ, we're in a relationship, we might be tempted to say, we're all in. We might be tempted to say, we're all in, like Peter did. All in. But listen to what Jesus says to the crowd and to his disciples. If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for me and for the gospel will save it. I don't think Jesus is saying, lose your life, like die today, right now. Just die. He's not talking about that. He's talking about losing your preferences in life for the sake of the good news of Christ. Do you remember when Jesus said, if you love your mother, your father, your son, your daughter more than me, you're not worthy to be my disciple? But in our society, mom, country, and apple pie. Right? Don't take my apple pie away, especially if it's the crumble kind. Little hint to anybody? Is that called a Dutch apple? Oh, thank you. A Dutch apple pie. And don't take my flag away. Definitely don't take my mom away. Are those the things we should focus on? Are those the things we should focus on? Like ultimately, those are the most important things? Jesus says, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, now let's be clear, he's not talking about sexual adultery. He's talking about we're focused on our stuff. When we are supposed to be in a relationship with him. That's what he's talking about. And it could include that other. But it's just about focus. It's about who we are focused on and whose ideals are we focused on. If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels. See, this is when people are brought before a congregation and they're baptized, like there's an argument in Christendom, maybe it's not as much, but the idea that do you baptize infants? Do you baptize people who know what they're doing? And in reality, neither one know what they're doing. In true reality. Because you can be 14 years old, you can be 95 years old, and you are buried in Christ. That means you're dead. Your ideas, your ideals are not what's important. God's ideals. So you must die, you must be buried with Christ, not just in. You got to be buried in Christ to where we are not noticeable. When we are perfected, you can hardly tell the difference between Jesus. Well, you don't know who we are in that sense. It's a trade-off. Do you want to keep you? Do we want to keep us and what we think is the ideals of what it means to be living in faith? Or are we willing to just give those things up and to live in the person of Christ? See, some of what we experience in the Christian journey, there is no pain. There is no pain. When the wrestling coach came up to me when I was a freshman in high school and grabbed my side, I thought he was weird. And he said, "You make a great wrestler." Okay, buddy. I tried out for basketball. That's how tall I was. I wasn't as thick as I am now. But I worked those drills, and I even made free throws. But when the coach said I would make a great designated free throw shooter, I knew I was going to get plenty of bench time. And somebody wanted me. The wrestling coach wanted me. So I went and I sat down and I watched the wrestling practice. And I saw the grimaces on the faces and so forth. And I saw the guys go, ah! All that, and I thought, this is what I want. Little did I know, I was the one going to be going, for the first 2 years. And then I started doing that. It was so fun. But the idea, I had to give up something. Because what's the benefit of playing basketball for a school team? The girls get to see my legs. Yeah. 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 And my muscles up here. Because when I wrestled, I had to wear leotards. And I didn't even get to do ballet.
Singlets, not leotards.
No, we had singlets with leotards. Yes. Nowadays, I like the idea of leotards because all them germs, now I really like them. And plus, my legs don't look as good. So, but the idea that we got to give up something in order to get what we really desire. And what do we really desire? Ultimate love. Forgiveness. Isn't that what we really want? We want to belong. And think about your own families. Are there times that you don't feel like you even belong to your family? Have you ever had that? Maybe you haven't. But there are people who have felt that way, who do feel that way. When I hear stories of students saying why they didn't get their work done, because there's trouble in the home. They have to go into a closet and do their work because it's too loud. People arguing, people yelling. And just imagine if they could focus on something greater, something more awesome. Because if we get a ray of love to us, and this person over here gets a ray of love for them, and it's all shining on all of us, wouldn't we all feel warm and included? The trade-off is, do we want to do it our way? Trying to protect what is ours? Or to give it away and allow Christ to shine through us? The only way you see the moon is because of the sun. The only way we can be seen is because of the Son, Jesus the Christ. So which is better? Tribal, individual, or community? It may feel like a suffering at first. But once you get the hang of it, just like the walking the pounds off, Was it a little struggle at the beginning? When people first start out on a journey of wellness, it's no fun. And it was no fun for the disciples. Trade-offs. Do you want to live the good life, great life? Or do you want to live headache to headache? It's your choice. It's all of our own choices. Do you choose to follow Christ? Choose to follow your own. In Jesus' name. Make a trade-off.